Every single night, something strange happens to you. You close your eyes in your bedroom. A few minutes later, you are no longer there. Maybe you're walking through your old school hallway. Maybe you're flying over an ocean. Maybe you're having a conversation with someone who died years ago. Everything feels real. The fear is real. The happiness is real. The people feel real. Then, a few hours later, you wake up in your bed, look around, and realize that none of it happened. But here's the truly bizarre part. For nearly 1/3 of your entire life, your brain voluntarily disconnects itself from reality and creates another world. Not a blurry world, not a vague imagination, an entire reality. And while you're there, your body becomes almost completely paralyzed. Your sense of time becomes distorted. The laws of logic disappear. You accept impossible things without questioning them. A fish can give you career advice. A door can lead to your childhood. You can somehow be in Paris and your grandmother's kitchen at the same time. And none of it seems strange. The weirdest part is that your brain, the very thing generating this bizarre movie, somehow convinces itself that everything is perfectly normal. It's almost like your mind becomes both the filmmaker and the audience at the same time. So why does this happen? Why would evolution create something so strange? Dreaming consumes enormous amounts of energy. During certain phases of sleep, your brain becomes nearly as active as when you're fully awake. From an evolutionary perspective, this seems completely irrational. For millions of years, survival depended on conserving energy. Our ancestors lived among predators, harsh weather, and constant danger. Every calorie mattered. So why would the brain spend several hours every night creating elaborate stories that disappear by morning? It seems wasteful. It seems unnecessary. And yet, every human being who has ever lived has done it. Kings dream. Scientists dream. Ancient hunters dream. Children dream. You dream. Even animals dream. If you've ever seen a dog sleeping, gently moving its legs as if it's running somewhere, or quietly making small noises, there's a good chance it isn't simply resting. It's somewhere else, inside its own private world, which raises an unsettling question. If dreams are so universal, then perhaps they aren't random at all. Perhaps they're doing something incredibly important. In fact, some of history's greatest discoveries may have begun inside dreams. In 1865, a German chemist named Friedrich August Kekule was desperately trying to solve a problem. Chemists already knew that benzene existed. They knew its ingredients, but they couldn't understand its structure. No matter how much Kekule thought about it, the answer remained hidden. Then one evening, exhausted and frustrated, he fell asleep. In his dream, he saw atoms moving like dancing snakes. Then one snake suddenly grabbed its own tail and formed a circle. Kekule woke up immediately. The image had given him the answer. Benzene wasn't arranged in a straight chain. It was a ring. That discovery completely changed organic chemistry. And it wasn't the only time this happened. Years later, a young musician woke up with an entire melody already playing inside his head. He thought he had accidentally remembered someone else's song. The melody felt too complete to have appeared out of nowhere, but nobody recognized it. The song had emerged from a dream. That musician was Paul McCartney. The song was Yesterday. Some of the most famous ideas in human history may have arrived while people were unconscious, which is deeply strange, because while you sleep, your logical thinking actually becomes weaker. Parts of the brain responsible for reason and self-control become less active. Yet somehow, in that bizarre state, your mind occasionally makes connections that it couldn't make while awake. It's almost as if the sleeping brain speaks a completely different language. A language built from symbols, emotions, memories, and impossible associations. And humans have always been fascinated by this mystery. Thousands of years ago, dreams weren't considered products of the brain. They were messages. The ancient Egyptians believed dreams were communications from the gods. They took dreams so seriously that people traveled to special temples simply to sleep there. Imagine that. Entire buildings designed for sleeping. People would spend the night inside these temples, hoping to receive guidance, warnings, or prophecies. The next morning, priests would interpret their dreams. A strange dream could change important decisions. A king might start a war because of one. A farmer might change his plans because of another. Dreams weren't entertainment. They were instructions. Other civilizations thought similarly. Ancient Greeks believed dreams could predict the future. In many cultures, dreaming was seen as a temporary journey of the soul. Even today, millions of people still feel that dreams carry hidden messages. And honestly, it's not difficult to understand why. Dreams can feel more emotionally intense than reality. You can wake up from a nightmare with your heart racing. You can wake up from a beautiful dream and genuinely miss people who never existed. Sometimes a dream stays with you all day, sometimes for years. And occasionally, a dream changes the direction of someone's entire life. Why would random electrical activity have such power over our emotions? That question puzzled scientists for centuries. For a long time, nobody had any way of looking inside the sleeping brain. Sleep seemed like a black box. You went in. Several hours passed. Then you came back. Everything that happened in between was hidden. But in the early 1950s, that mystery began to crack. At the University of Chicago, a young researcher named Eugene Aserinsky became interested in something that most people considered incredibly boring: watching people sleep. At the time, scientists believed the brain simply powered down during sleep. Sleep was viewed as a passive state. The body rested. The brain rested. End of story. Aserinsky wasn't convinced. So he connected electrodes to sleeping volunteers and began recording what was happening. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Their brain activity slowed. Everything appeared calm. Then something unexpected happened. Several hours into the night, the recording suddenly exploded with activity. Brain waves became fast and chaotic. The sleeping brain looked astonishingly awake. Then Aserinsky noticed something even stranger. Under closed eyelids, the volunteers' eyes were moving rapidly back and forth. Left, right, as if they were watching something, but there was nothing there. The room was dark. Their eyes were closed. So what exactly were they looking at? Curious, Aserinsky woke them up. And again, people reported the same thing. I was just having a dream. The discovery shocked the scientific world. Sleeping wasn't passive at all. The brain wasn't shutting down. It was becoming intensely active. Scientists eventually named this stage REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement sleep. And suddenly, dreams transformed from philosophical curiosities into scientific mysteries. Because now there was evidence that the sleeping brain wasn't inactive. It was busy. Very busy. But busy doing what? That question would send scientists on a journey that still hasn't reached its end. More than 70 years after the discovery of REM sleep, humanity has built space telescopes powerful enough to photograph galaxies billions of light years away. We've decoded our genetic blueprint. We've created machines capable of generating art, music, and language. Yet one of the most common experiences in human existence remains partially unsolved. Every night, billions of people enter worlds that don't exist. We visit impossible places, meet impossible people, experience impossible events. Then we wake up and continue our lives as if nothing extraordinary happened. Maybe that's because dreams happen so often that we've stopped appreciating how bizarre they really are. Tonight, when you close your eyes, your brain will once again perform one of the strangest acts in nature. It will temporarily disconnect from reality and create another one. The question is, why? So, what exactly is happening inside your head when you're dreaming? To answer that question, we need to understand something surprising. Dreaming isn't simply thinking while asleep. From a biological perspective, dreaming is one of the strangest states your brain can enter. Because the moment REM sleep begins, 4 extraordinary things happen almost simultaneously. The first is paralysis. This sounds frightening, but it's actually one of the smartest safety systems evolution ever created. During REM sleep, a part of your brainstem sends chemical signals that temporarily disable most of your major muscles. Your arms can't properly move. Your legs can't properly move. Your body becomes almost completely still. Why? Imagine dreaming that you're running from danger. Without paralysis, your body might actually start running. Imagine dreaming that you're in a boxing match. You might throw punches in real life. In other words, your brain temporarily disconnects your muscles so that your dreams remain where they belong. Inside your head, nature essentially locks the doors before the movie begins. The second thing that happens is even stranger. Your visual system suddenly becomes highly active. This is why dreams can feel incredibly vivid. Think about the last dream you remember. You probably didn't experience it as vague thoughts. You saw places. You saw faces. You saw movement. You experienced colors. Sometimes dream environments feel so detailed that they seem more real than reality itself. And that's because, in many ways, your brain is genuinely creating a visual experience. The visual regions of your brain become intensely active, almost as if you're actually looking at something. Except there's no external world, no sunlight, no objects, no people. Everything you're seeing is being generated internally. Your brain becomes a movie studio producing images entirely from memory and imagination. Then comes the third change. And this one explains almost every bizarre thing you've ever experienced in a dream. Your logical center partially powers down. The prefrontal cortex, the region involved in reasoning, judgment, and self-control, becomes less active. This is incredibly important, because logic is usually the strict editor of your thoughts. It asks questions. That doesn't make sense. How did I get here? Why is this happening? But during dreams, that editor takes the night off. Suddenly, impossible situations become perfectly acceptable. You could be talking to your childhood teacher while standing on the moon. You can somehow be both 12 years old and 30 years old at the same time. A building can transform into a train. Your pet can start speaking fluent English. And you accept it all. No questions asked. The dream world follows emotional logic rather than rational logic. Things don't need to make sense. They simply need to feel meaningful in that moment. And then comes the fourth change. Memory becomes unreliable. This is why dreams disappear so quickly. You've probably had this experience. You wake up, the dream feels incredibly vivid. You think, there's no way I'll forget this. Then you brush your teeth. 5 minutes later, half of it is gone. 10 minutes later, almost everything has vanished. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. Scientists believe this happens because certain chemicals involved in forming long-term memories are present at very low levels during REM sleep. Your brain essentially says, interesting experience, but probably not worth permanently storing, which is why most dreams dissolve almost immediately. Think about how strange that is. Your brain spends hours creating elaborate experiences and then almost instantly throws most of them away. It's like spending an entire night filming a movie and deleting the footage the next morning. So why go through all this effort? Why create these strange realities in the first place? This question has fascinated scientists for decades. And over time, several theories have emerged. The first theory is called memory consolidation. This is currently one of the most widely supported ideas in neuroscience. Throughout the day, your brain collects enormous amounts of information. Conversations, faces, new facts, embarrassing moments, skills you're learning, tiny details you didn't even realize you noticed. By evening, your brain is carrying around a massive pile of information. Imagine a librarian receiving thousands of books at once. Nothing is organized. Everything is messy. The librarian now has an enormous task. What should be kept? What should be discarded? What belongs together? Many scientists believe that dreaming may be part of this sorting process. The sleeping brain begins organizing memories, connecting experiences, strengthening important information, removing unnecessary details. In other words, while you sleep, your brain may be quietly cleaning its desk, and there is evidence that this process matters. Researchers have repeatedly found that sleep improves learning. Students remember information better after sleeping. Athletes perform movements more accurately after sleeping. Musicians improve their performance after sleep. It's almost as if the brain keeps practicing and organizing information long after consciousness disappears. Dreams might be one visible side effect of that hidden process. But memory isn't the whole story, because many dreams aren't about facts. They're about emotions. This leads to another fascinating theory: emotional processing. Think about how often your dreams contain emotionally important people, family members, old friends, former relationships, people you haven't thought about in years. Dreams seem strangely attracted to emotion. Sometimes you wake up feeling anxious, sometimes relieved, sometimes nostalgic, sometimes deeply sad. Scientists have noticed that regions of the brain involved in emotions become particularly active during REM sleep. It's possible that dreaming allows us to process feelings that remain unfinished during the day. Perhaps dreams function like an overnight therapy session, a place where the brain revisits experiences and tries to make emotional sense of them. This could explain something many people have experienced. When life becomes stressful, dreams often become more intense. During difficult periods, some people have more vivid dreams, more strange dreams, more emotional dreams. It's almost as if the brain becomes busier at night when our emotional world becomes complicated. But then scientists discovered something even more interesting. A huge number of dreams involve danger, being chased, falling, being late, losing something, getting lost. Why are nightmares so common? If dreams exist for memory and emotions, why do so many of them involve fear? This question gave birth to another idea: the threat simulation theory. According to this theory, dreams may function as a virtual training environment, a simulator for survival. Think about our ancestors. For most of human history, the world was dangerous. Predators existed, enemies existed, food shortages existed. A single mistake could be fatal. A brain capable of rehearsing dangerous situations before they happened would have a significant advantage. Dreams may have allowed our ancestors to practice. How do you react when you're being chased? How do you escape danger? How do you respond to fear? The remarkable thing is that none of this practice required real risk. You could rehearse survival scenarios while safely asleep. Nightmares may be unpleasant, but perhaps they're also useful. Your sleeping mind might be running emergency drills that helped keep our species alive. And if that's true, then dreams aren't random entertainment. They're training simulations. A virtual reality system millions of years older than computers. But this raises an even bigger question. If dreams help memory, process emotions, and rehearse survival, then perhaps their purpose isn't singular at all. Maybe dreaming is not one thing. Maybe it's many things happening simultaneously. And the deeper scientists look into dreams, the stranger the mystery becomes. Because one modern theory suggests that dreaming may exist for a reason so practical and so unexpected that it changes how we think about sleep entirely. And to understand it, we first need to talk about something incredible about the human brain. Its ability to change itself. The human brain has a remarkable ability called neuroplasticity. At first glance, this sounds like another complicated scientific term. But the idea is actually simple. Your brain is not a machine with fixed parts. It is more like a living city. Roads are constantly being rebuilt. Connections are continuously changed. Different regions compete, adapt, and reorganize themselves. In other words, your brain never completely sits still. And this adaptability is one of humanity's greatest strengths. If someone loses their eyesight, parts of the brain can become more sensitive to sound and touch. If a person learns a new skill for years, the brain physically changes to support that skill. Neural territory is constantly shifting. But this flexibility also creates an interesting problem. The brain doesn't like wasting valuable space. If one area becomes inactive for too long, nearby regions may begin taking over its functions. Experiments have shown just how quickly this can happen. In some studies, researchers blindfolded volunteers and prevented visual input from reaching the brain. Surprisingly, within a relatively short period, the visual cortex began responding more strongly to touch and sound. The brain was already adapted. It was already reorganizing itself. And this observation inspired one of the strangest modern theories about dreams, the defensive activation theory. The idea was proposed by neuroscientist David Eagleman, and it begins with a simple question. What happens every night when you go to sleep? Darkness. For roughly 8 hours, your eyes stop sending meaningful information to the brain. No scenery, no movement, no colors, nothing. For our ancient ancestors, this happened every single night, generation after generation, thousands upon thousands of hours spent in darkness. Now imagine being the visual cortex. You are one of the largest and most important systems in the human brain. Your job is to process visual information. Then suddenly, nothing. 8 hours of silence. 8 hours without work. And the brain hates unused territory. According to the defensive activation theory, dreams may exist partly to solve this problem. Every 90 minutes or so, the brainstem sends bursts of internally generated images into the visual cortex. Why? To keep it active. To remind the rest of the brain that this territory is still occupied. In other words, dreams might function like a biological screensaver, a maintenance program, a way of keeping the visual system running during long periods of darkness. Think about how strange that idea is. You may not dream because your brain wants to entertain you. You may dream because your brain is protecting your ability to see. The bizarre movie theater inside your head could be performing a practical maintenance task. Suddenly, dreams feel less mystical and more like a brilliantly engineered solution. But here's where things become truly fascinating. Even if this theory is partly correct, it doesn't cancel the others. Dreams may simultaneously protect vision, process emotions, strengthen memories, rehearse survival, and stimulate creativity. Evolution often works this way. It rarely wastes opportunities. A system that already exists can gradually take on multiple jobs. Consider your smartphone. It's a camera, a calculator, a map, a music player, a notebook, a communication device. One tool performing many functions. Perhaps dreams are similar. Perhaps evolution created this nightly state for one reason, and over millions of years, the brain found additional uses for it. And if that's true, then dreaming may be one of the most efficient systems ever built by nature. Because every night, without any effort from you, your brain may be cleaning memories, processing emotions, rehearsing dangers, generating ideas, and maintaining neural systems all at the same time, all while you lie motionless in bed. But there is one more mystery, a very personal one. Why do dreams feel so meaningful? Because scientifically speaking, most dreams are bizarre. They're inconsistent, illogical, sometimes completely absurd, and yet they often leave powerful emotional impressions. A dream can stay with you for years, sometimes longer than real experiences. Why? Perhaps because dreams reveal something fundamental about the human mind. By day, our attention is constantly pulled outward. Responsibilities, deadlines, notifications, conversations, problems. Our minds spend enormous amounts of energy reacting to the external world. But dreams are different. Dreams are almost entirely internal. They are made from our memories, emotions, fears, desires, and experiences. They are constructed from pieces of ourselves. Maybe that's why dreams can feel so intimate. They aren't places we visit. They are places our minds create. Every landscape, every person, every strange event, every impossible conversation. All of it emerges from the same 3 pounds of tissue sitting inside your skull. And honestly, that's incredible. Because the human brain is capable of something extraordinary. It can create entire worlds. Worlds with sounds. Worlds with movement. Worlds with stories and emotions. Entire realities generated in complete darkness. And then, by morning, it does something equally strange. It erases most of them. Almost like a child building magnificent sandcastles at night and allowing the tide to wash them away before sunrise. Perhaps that's part of what makes dreams beautiful. They are temporary, private, unrepeatable. No one else can enter them. No one else can fully experience them. There is no recording, no photograph, no evidence. Some of the most emotional experiences of your life may happen inside dreams and disappear forever, except for a vague feeling that remains after waking. And maybe that feeling is enough, because dreams remind us of something we often forget. The human mind is still largely unexplored. We've mapped distant galaxies. We've landed machines on other worlds. We've split atoms and decoded the human genome. We've built artificial intelligence capable of generating art and language. And yet, every single night, billions of people close their eyes and enter an experience that science still cannot fully explain. Maybe one day we'll understand dreams completely. Maybe we'll identify every mechanism and every purpose. Or maybe dreams will always keep a little of their mystery. Personally, I hope they do. Because mysteries have value. They remind us that even the most familiar experiences can still be extraordinary. And there may be nothing more familiar than sleep. Tonight, when you turn off the lights and place your head on your pillow, something remarkable will happen again. Your muscles will become still. Your awareness of the outside world will begin to fade. And somewhere inside the darkness of your mind, another reality will quietly begin to form. Maybe you'll revisit an old memory. Maybe you'll solve a problem. Maybe you'll confront a fear. Maybe you'll simply fly through a sky that doesn't exist. Whatever happens, remember this. You are about to enter one of the strangest frontiers in all of human experience. A place where logic loosens its grip, impossible things become ordinary, and the brain reveals just how creative and mysterious it truly is. Because every dream, no matter how strange, is evidence of something extraordinary. Inside your head exists an entire universe. And every night, for a few short hours, the doors open,